Woman, a program by, for, and about women today, with Sandra Elkin.
Good evening and welcome to Woman. My guest this evening is the internationally famous actress Jeanne Moreau. For the first time in her career, Jeanne Moreau has written and directed a film. It's called Lumiere, and it's about women and their relationships. Welcome to Woman.
Thank you. I was just watching you. I thought you looked a little like some portraits of Georges Sand I've seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just talk it to me.
Tell me about Lumiere. You say it's about women's relationships and the intimacy that they feel when they're alone together. Is that right?
Yes. That's a desire I had to show that sort of relationship because maybe you remember the film that was made with Brigitte Bardot and I called Viva Maria. And when I was offered to be in that film, I spoke with Louis Malle and a man called Carrière, the scriptwriter, who usually works a lot with Buñuel. And I was very excited by the idea of being together with Brigitte. And I liked the idea of this close relationship, these two women going through a wild country, not knowing anybody or anything, and building a real relationship together. And then finally, when the final script was written, I discovered that we were back to the old bullshit. Means that at one point maybe they thought the relationship was too simple or too boring, and then they constructed a sort of antagonism between these two women. And I found that so frustrating that just like that, out of the blues, I said, one day I'll make a film and I will try to show the true, real relationship I know of between women.
I noticed at the time that Viva Maria was released, and the time also before that when you were making the film, I think the press started to get into a rivalry or to lead
exactly.
you to
we were
into a rivalry.
surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of photographers, journalists, and each time we were speaking to one another, clack, clack, and if I was turning around, clack, clack, and you know, they tried to build an incredible story about that.
I know. Well, what was your real relationship during the filming? I mean, was it cordial? Was there some intimacy between the two of you?
At the beginning, there was an enormous intimacy, a real complicity. But you see, Brigitte has let herself at that time, now I think she has changed, she was surrounded by a squadron of people like bullfighters, you know, secretaries, makeup man, hairdresser, driver, personal advisor, agent, ancient lover, new lover. I mean, it's as though she was surrounded by barbed wires. And when these people noticed that we were confident in one another and that we had fun, they resented it very much.
It was very threatening to them.
Exactly. So after about 8 or 9 weeks, they tried, and they, in a way, they managed to alter our relationship during a while. And, you know, through exhaustion and very hard climate. At one point, I thought that it would destroy any real relationship between us. But as I told you before, I'm very strong about that, and I didn't want to be involved in all that. So.
But that must have made you feel even stronger about wanting to do this film.
Yes.
I mean, even thinking about that in retrospect.
Yes, in retrospect, yes. Well, anyway, to come back to Brigitte, I mean, I like her and she likes me, though we don't see one another very often. So to come back to the film, besides that, I've experienced a friendship with a woman. We are friends since 19 years. And so I wanted to make a film as a present to her, and Lumiere is a present to her. And it's a present to cinema too, because not only I wanted to speak about women, but I have a real passion for films. And since many years what struck me, it's that the way the films were done, men related more themselves to craft and brilliancy in the way of handle the camera, in the way of editing. The relationship with the camera and then the audience was more a sort of desire to manipulate the others than to be open to them. You see what I mean?
Yes.
It's easy to construct a dramatic movement just by being clever with your camera. And that men can do because they've been allowed to handle a camera since many, many, many years. And maybe they have lost that profound and fascinating feeling you have when you handle a camera for the first time.
Also, did you quarrel with the images that were being projected of women?
No, I don't quarrel.
You don't?
I just feel like doing things. I don't try to make statements. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, but Lumiere is a statement, though.
Well, it's a statement, but I didn't do it on purpose. See what I mean?
Yes.
I just wanted to show what I knew about. And these women are actresses, and they are in relation with life, with their work, with their families, with their lovers, and they're in relation with death. That's all it's about. I mean, in fact, the film starts on Monday, it ends a Friday. There are certain weeks in one's life when things happen, though daily life seems to be the same, our problems, our joys are the same, and then, while we don't know it, fate is constructing something. And there is an event that grows and explodes, and after that, one knows that one will never be the same. And in the case of Lumiere, one of Sarah's closest friend, a man.
Sarah is the role you play.
Yes. Her closest friend is a man. He's a researcher, you say,
Yes,
related to
a biologist. Is that
to
what it is?
cancer, and he kills himself. And after that, I'm sure that Sarah's life will never be the same. I don't mean that she won't go on living, or I don't mean she'll be only surviving. No, but I think that, you know, for the first time of her life, she is realizing the loss, immediate, close, provoked by death.
I guess because you wrote the film, there's enormous speculation about its autobiographical qualities. And I think I read a piece in Time magazine, one in the New York Times, and people are saying that Sarah is very much you. Do you see Sarah as being very much you?
No, I mean, even in films I haven't directed, like Jules and Jim, people could say Catherine is very like me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can find pieces of me in many of the parts I portrayed. And maybe people think that more clearly for Lumiere because I wrote the script and I directed it and I played the part. But I think that any creator, any person, or painting, or writing music, or writing a novel, or even cooking in the kitchen. I mean, you give the same recipe to different people, and what comes out of it,
It never tastes the same.
it's the same dish. It has the same name, but it doesn't taste the same. So everything we do is autobiographical. That's what I think.
Well, maybe we'll end that speculation here and now.
Okay.
One of the other questions that you say that the film deals with, and that is sort of reconciling ambitions, the need to love and the need to be an artist. Now, certainly that's something many, many people, and especially many women, can identify with.
You mean that most of the women think that if they allow their ambition...
Right. They can't have both, I think, is what people think, that it can't be done successfully.
Well, I mean, that's terrible. Well, it's like that idea of sins. I mean, and that idea too, if you do something wrong, you'll have to pay for it. And then another usual thought is, if you get something good, you'll have to pay for it. In fact, it's as though we were on this earth to live and always pay for something. Pay for something good we've done, pay for something good we've got, and pay for something wrong, a mistake we've done. And I think that women shouldn't, but we do.
They feel guilty about being ambitious,
well,
I think.
I felt guilty for so many years about that.
Because you work very hard, don't you? And you push yourself.
Yes, I had to.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at the beginning, and that beginning lasted such a long time, until about 8 years ago, I thought that I was hurting the others around me, because I was allowing myself to express freely my needs and work the way I wanted to work and express myself completely. And
but did you have conflicts about the men in your life and your career?
Of course.
Did you ever think you had to choose one or the other?
Of course. You see, I got married very young. And my husband was an actor. And then, since then, he became a director, and now he writes scripts. But I know that it was really a threat for him that I became famous, earned more money than he did. And concerning money, for example, we tried to solve that problem. And we talked a lot about it. And I said, listen, for the moment, I'm the one who has the money. But, you know, one never knows. Maybe in 2 years, I won't have any money. I will work less. And, I mean, we're sharing our lives, or sort of experience. And why not share the money?
Didn't work, though?
Well, he said it did, but in fact it did not. But not because of himself or the way he felt about it, but it's the others around you. Because even if you're not conformist in your private life, you cannot keep yourself into a shell and just be face to face. You have to go out in the world. And it's the way the others look at you that influences terribly the relationship between a man and a woman.
Was your divorce from him, and I assume you were divorced from him, because you couldn't reconcile the two things, your career and your marriage?
I really flew away. We were married since 5 years. I earned money, but we didn't have enough to rent a flat. We had a baby, and we lived with my husband's parents, the mother and the father, and that was a disaster. And in fact, they resented more than him the fact that I was more successful. And besides, I couldn't stand jealousy. And it's not because I was very deeply in love with my husband that I was less curious about was going on around. I mean, though you're in love, you lie to yourself. If you force yourself to be blind, deaf, and not emotionally connected to the rest of the world and the human beings. And my husband became very jealous, but terrible. And living with his family, not only I had my husband jealous, but I had my father-in-law. Means that when I came back home, let's say half an hour late, if my husband was not home, my father-in-law was home and would tell my husband she was half hour late.
No wonder you flew.
When did I
I said, no wonder you flew out of that marriage. I want to get back to Lumiere for a minute. Was it difficult to be taken seriously when you said, I want to make a film about women and the relationships? Were there people who said, we don't want anything to do with it? Were there people? No?
No. First of all, I forced myself to talk about it a lot because I was very frightened. And I spoke so much that it was just like a commitment. I was forced to do it. My ex-husband has been marvelous about it. Some of the men friends were terrible. They sent me letters, and I thought at one point that even a very strong friendship I had with a man was finished. And when I had finished my script, and when I spoke about the film, I had to meet people to get the money. Nobody resented the fact, I must admit, that I wanted to make a film about friendship between women. I didn't encounter more difficulties than any other young male director. See what I mean?
Right.
On the set, the 3 or 4 first days, that was quite amusing. I had chosen my crew, and some of the grips and some of the electricians had known me on sets before, but as an actress. And they were gaping of curiosity, and they were not doing their work. They were wondering how I was going to handle the situation.
Waiting, probably.
You know. And one chief of the electricians, used to come up every morning to ask me the same question, though everything had been planned the night before at the end of the work. So I didn't know his first name. And he always came up to me and say, well, madame, what are we doing this morning? I said, well, monsieur, I told you yesterday night. And anyway, your chief knows me, the lighting cameraman. He says, well, I wanted to know if you didn't change your mind. I said, no, I have not. So the Thursday I said, what is your first name? He says, Georges. I said, my first name is Jeanne. Do you have the same question to ask me? He says, yes, Jeanne. Didn't change your mind. I said, Georges, merde. So everybody laughed on the set, and it ended everything. But
the actors, you had no problem with the actors,
no.
though?
Oh, no.
Because you carefully chose them.
Oh, no, and then on the contrary, it was incredible, because when they all knew that the film was on preparation, they all came up to me. Young actors, young actresses saying, whatever part, we don't even want to read the script, we want to be in that film. That was marvelous.
And you did it. It's really considered, in a sense, a low-budget film, isn't it?
Yes. I spent less than $600,000. I was allowed to spend it, but I didn't. And I had 40 days of shooting, and I was allowed to use 40,000 meters of films, and I only used 27,000 meters. I didn't do it on purpose, but personally, even as an actress, I like rhythm on a set. And the film went with that rhythm.
You know, you've had this one experience now as a director. Do you have any sense of your own style as a director, or a strong sense of your needs as a director yet, or is it too soon for that?
No, it's not too soon. Well, in my relationship with the camera work, I'm coming back to what I was trying to explain you at the beginning. I'm not for a very complicated editing, shortcutting. I'm relying more on the daydreaming and the preparation of the film than on very brilliant camera work. And concerning the style, it all depends of the film you do. I think that each director has a style, but he has inside of this personal style, he has a different way to move inside a different film in relation with what he wants to express and in relation with his actors and the lights and the sets and everything.
Were you in a large part motivated to do this not only because of, you know, the story you told about your relationship with Bardot, but because it was the only way to make that statement, that really as an actress you probably weren't going to get the opportunity to make that statement because no one else was going to do?
Well, my desire had a larger, wider ambition. I think, I imagine all the work, the film works all over the world like a huge symphony. And for the moment, I mean, all the instruments are played by men. It's as though you only had drums or trumpets or violins. And then I felt that not only I, but other women should mix their voices, their instrument, to that symphony, so it could be a little more musical.
You sound very much like a feminist when I read other interviews that I've read of yours.
But I don't know exactly what
well, I'm not sure I know either, but
means.
But strongly involved in the women's movement, I think, in some
I'm not
in your own
strongly.
special way.
I'm not involved in the women in the women movements. I mean, I do not participate. I'm not part of a group, but I'm very aware
But you're
of
off
women.
doing your own thing, though.
Yes, but I'm very aware of women's problems, and I always relate myself to women in good moments or in bad moments. There's one thing I love in life, it's to be able to place myself inside somebody, I mean try to. And that's easy for me when I look at a woman or speak with a woman, or even if I don't speak to her, when I see some women walking in the street or in a restaurant. I know so well what they're going through. For example, I had a friend of mine, she had to have an operation, and I went with her to the clinic. And while she was writing down all the files, well, she was not frightened, but you know how one feels before having an operation. And entered a woman about 50, 55 years old. She was with her husband. And they looked so worn out about life, with life, you know. And I could see fear in the eyes of this woman. They were very simple people, and he was carrying a little bag, and they got all mixed up with the files and the papers, and suddenly I could see sweat on the face of that woman, and I felt immediately that she was going through menopause, and surely that she was going to have hysterectomy. And I wished I could have spoken to her. Then my friend was ready, and then a nurse took us upstairs, and then I had bought some flowers. I arranged the room, and I couldn't find a vase, and then came out in the corridor, and suddenly I saw a door open, and there was that woman with that little man, and he was leaving. So I came in the room.
Good for you.
And I said, well, maybe you don't know me, but don't worry. Tell me what is wrong with you. And she said hysterectomy, and I said I thought so. And she started talking about herself, and she was worrying about the house that was empty, her husband was alone, and the laundry, and the food he was going to get, and I said, that's nothing. I mean, just be very selfish now, and well, you know, that sort of relationship. So coming back to what I was saying at the beginning, I feel that is immediately possible.
Right, and important.
Yes, when I see a woman or some women, but with men it's more difficult.
Let's talk more about men next week.
Okay.
All right? Thank you. Thank you for watching, and good night.
That's fine.
This program was produced by WNED-TV, which is solely responsible for its content. Major funding was provided by public television stations. Additional support was provided by unrestricted general program grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the Ford Foundation.